All right, so let's talk about sleep. I don't know about you, but I've definitely had those mornings where I've like spilled my coffee and been like, yep, this feels about right. Like those mornings where you're running on fumes.
I hear you.
And guess what? You're not alone. You've actually sent in some like really interesting research on sleep. And trust me, it's way more fascinating than just like figuring out how to drag ourselves out of bed.
It really is. We're going to uncover some pretty surprising things about sleep today, things that might just change how you think about bedtime entirely.
Okay, I am so ready for this. Lay it on me. What kind of surprises are we talking about?
Well, how about the fact that skimping on sleep for even a couple of weeks can be like being legally drunk, or the truth about how alcohol actually messes with your sleep even though it might seem like it helps.
Okay.
Get ready to have some common beliefs challenged.
Now, I'm really intrigued. Let's get into it. First things first, let's talk about why sleep is such a big deal. I mean, beyond just feeling less, zombie-like,
Yeah.
what's the big deal about getting enough sleep?
It goes way beyond just feeling groggy. We're talking about serious health risks here. Things like heart attack, hypertension, diabetes, and believe it or not, even dementia.
Whoa, dementia.
Yeah.
Really? That's a bit scary. I mean, I knew sleep was important, but I didn't realize it was that connected to our long-term health.
Yeah, it's true. And the thing is, most people just don't make the connection between their sleep and these serious health problems, later down the road. They brush off those tired mornings as just a normal part of life.
Okay, guilty as charged, but you've officially got my attention. So,
Okay.
how much sleep should we be aiming for? Is that magical 8 hours a night really all it's cracked up to be?
Well, both the National Sleep Foundation and the CDC recommend shooting for 7 to 9 hours of sleep each night.
7 to 9. Okay, I'll be honest. Most nights, I'm lucky if I get 7. Is that really going to make a huge difference? I feel like I function pretty well on 7 hours.
Well, there's actually some fascinating research from neuroscientist Matt Walker that shows even just 7 hours of sleep for 10 days straight has a noticeable, negative impact on the brain.
10 days.
Yeah.
So basically, a week and a half of slightly less sleep can actually start messing with my brain.
Okay. All right. You've convinced me. 8 hours it is. But what about people who are naturally night owls? Is it even possible to change your sleep patterns if you're just wired to stay up late?
That's a great question. There's actually a concept called chronotypes, which essentially means that your natural sleep-wake cycle is partly determined by your genes. Some people are naturally early birds, while others are true night owls.
So you're telling me it's not just me being lazy. I'm supposed to be up late. This is groundbreaking information.
It's true. It's important to, be aware of your natural tendencies rather than trying to fight them. Of course, within reason. You can't use your night owl status as an excuse to stay up until 4 a.m. every night. Right. There's a difference between honoring your body's natural rhythm and just plain bad sleep hygiene. But speaking of consistency, how important is it really to stick to a regular sleep schedule? Surely sleeping in on the weekends is okay, right?
Well, here's the thing. Having a consistent sleep schedule is arguably the single most important factor when it comes to good quality sleep. And yes, that means even on weekends.
Even weekends. Oh, okay, you're really pushing me here. But seriously, why is it that important to be consistent?
Your body has an internal clock called the circadian rhythm, which basically regulates your sleep-wake cycle. When you change up your sleep schedule, it throws off that rhythm, making it harder to fall asleep and wake up feeling refreshed.
So it's kind of like jet lag, even if it's just a small shift in your schedule.
Exactly. Even a small shift can throw your body off. There's actually research that shows that daylight saving time, which only changes the clock by an hour, can actually lead to lower SAT scores.
Wait, really? Daylight saving time messes with our brains that much? Wow. Okay, I'm officially convinced. No more sleeping in until noon on Saturdays for me.
Yeah.
But realistically, how do you actually make that happen? I'm a champion snoozer.
One really simple tip is to set a bedtime alarm just like you set an alarm to wake up.
A bedtime alarm. That's actually a pretty good idea. I never thought of it that way.
Hmm.
Okay, so we're being consistent with our sleep schedule. What about all those little sleep aids we all lean on sometimes? Like a glass of wine before bed to unwind.
That's a classic one. But while a lot of people think alcohol helps them fall asleep, the reality is a little different.
Wait a minute, are you saying my nightly glass of wine might actually be hurting my sleep?
Well, here's the thing. Alcohol acts more like an anesthetic than a true sleep aid. It might knock you out initially, but it actually keeps your brain from going through the proper stages of sleep, especially REM sleep, which is crucial for all sorts of things.
Wait, REM sleep, that's the dream stage, right?
Exactly. And REM sleep is incredibly important. It helps with memory consolidation, emotional processing, and all sorts of other cognitive functions.
So you're telling me my glass of wine is messing with my memory and my dreams?
Uh-huh.
Okay, this is getting serious.
And here's the real kicker. Research shows that alcohol is probably the single most controllable thing that messes with our sleep.
Wow, okay. Maybe I need to rethink that whole wind down routine. But what about those nights when your brain just won't shut off? What about sleeping pills? Aren't those supposed to help in those situations?
Unfortunately, a lot of sleeping pills actually work in a similar way to alcohol, affecting the same receptors in the brain.
So they come with the same downsides of alcohol, not promoting like real restorative sleep.
Exactly. They might make you drowsy, but they're not promoting the kind of sleep your brain really needs.
Plus, I've heard they can be addictive. Not exactly a recipe for healthy sleep habits.
That's right. While occasional use might be okay in certain situations, it's definitely not something you want to rely on long term.
Okay, so alcohol and sleeping pills are out. What about everyone's other favorite sleep saboteur? Caffeine. Surely that morning latte doesn't affect my sleep later that night, right?
Well, you might be surprised to know that caffeine can hang around in your system for a while. We're talking a half-life of up to 6 hours. That means if you have a double espresso at 4 p.m., you still have the equivalent of a full shot in your system at 10 p.m.
6 hours. No wonder I can't fall asleep after my afternoon coffee.
Yeah.
So is it even possible to, enjoy caffeine without messing up your sleep?
Definitely. The key is all in the timing and how much you're having. Try to avoid caffeine in the late afternoon and evening and stick to smaller doses throughout the day instead of one big hit. Aim to have your last caffeine at least 10 hours before bed.
Okay, got it. Small sips, spread out. What about decaf coffee? Surely that's harmless, right?
Not necessarily. Decaf coffee actually still has caffeine in it, usually around 15 to 30% of what a regular cup has.
Wait, seriously, decaf has caffeine?
Yep.
This is blowing my mind.
It's a common misconception. Even that decaf after dinner could be contributing to those late-night wake-ups.
All right, I'm officially adding check the caffeine content of everything to my to-do list. But what if you really need a pick-me-up in the afternoon? What are some alternatives?
You can always opt for a naturally caffeine-free option like herbal tea or even like a caffeine-free soda.
Okay, I'm sensing a theme here. Moderation and timing are key when it comes to caffeine and sleep.
You got it.
All this talk about what not to do is making me sleepy. Time for a nap. I'm a big fan of a good power nap.
Well, you're in luck. Naps can actually be really good for you.
I knew it. Naps are the best.
They've been shown to improve alertness, boost your cognitive performance, help you learn better, and even process emotions more effectively.
Okay, naps are basically tiny superheroes. But are there any downsides to napping?
The trick is to be kind of strategic about your napping. If you nap at the wrong time or for too long, it can backfire and disrupt your nighttime sleep.
So, there's an art to the perfect nap. Tell me everything.
The ideal nap length is typically under 45 minutes. Now, if you're really sleep deprived, you might benefit from a longer nap, maybe like 90 to 120 minutes.
What happens if your nap falls somewhere in between those times? Like an hour, for example.
That's where you might run into something called sleep inertia, which basically means you wake up feeling groggy and disoriented.
Sleep inertia, huh? That doesn't sound fun.
It's not. It's that feeling when you wake up from a deep sleep and can't figure out where you are or what day it is.
Okay, noted. I'm setting an alarm for my next nap. What about that trick where you drink coffee right before a nap? Does that actually work?
That's actually a clever way to, supercharge your nap. Drinking coffee right before a short nap allows the caffeine to kind of kick in as you're waking up, which can help counteract that sleep inertia.
That's brilliant. So I can have my caffeine and my nap too. This is the best news ever. But what about those nights when sleep just seems completely impossible? Like full-blown insomnia, where you're tossing and turning for hours. What do you do then?
Insomnia can be so frustrating, but the key here is to actually avoid fighting it.
Wait, what? Don't fight it. But that's what I always do. I lie there, willing myself to fall asleep, and I just get more and more anxious as the time goes by.
I know it sounds counterintuitive, but staying in bed when you're wide awake can actually reinforce that wakefulness.
So what are you supposed to do instead?
The best thing is to actually get out of bed and do something relaxing, but also importantly, boring.
Relaxing and boring. So No scrolling through social media or catching up on emails.
Exactly. Those activities just stimulate your brain and make it even harder to fall asleep. You want to send your body the signal that it's time to rest.
Okay, my mind is officially blown. We've busted so many sleep myths already.
And we're just getting started. There's so much more to uncover about the world of sleep.
Ooh, a cliffhanger. All right, listeners, you'll have to tune into part 2 to hear more about how to sleep like a pro. Until then, sweet dreams.
Welcome back. I'm ready to, dive even deeper into the sleep science rabbit hole.
Great. I'm glad you're still with us. I had to say, I'm feeling pretty motivated to kind of change up my sleep habits after that last segment.
Good.
But I still have so many questions. Like, you mentioned the importance of a cool bedroom temperature for good sleep. Can we unpack that a bit more? I've always been a fan of piling on the blankets, even in the summer.
Of course. It's fascinating how much temperature affects our sleep. Think about it this way. When you drift off to sleep, your body naturally wants to kind of cool down its core temperature.
So we're like human radiators trying to release heat.
Exactly. And to do that effectively, your body needs to be able to, release heat. And a cool room really helps facilitate that whole process.
Okay, that makes sense. So is there like a magic temperature we should be aiming for?
Most experts recommend keeping your bedroom around 65 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay.
I know it might sound chilly to some people, but that slightly cooler temperature can make a world of difference in your sleep quality.
65 degrees, got it. Any other tips for regulating temperature at night?
Taking a hot bath or shower before bed can actually be really helpful.
Wait, really? I thought heat was the enemy of good sleep.
It might seem counterintuitive, but think about what happens when you take a hot bath or shower. It causes your blood vessels to dilate, which allows heat to escape from your core more easily.
So it's like a pre-sleep cool-down routine.
Exactly. Studies have shown that this can actually increase your deep sleep, also known as NREM sleep, by up to 15%.
Wow, 15%. That's pretty impressive. Okay, you might just convince me to become a bath person. What about exercise? Does when you work out have any impact on your sleep?
Exercise is great for sleep, but timing is definitely key. You want to avoid intense workouts too close to bedtime because they raise your core body temperature.
So that post-work gym session might actually be working against me when it comes to sleep.
It's possible, especially if you're working out within 3 hours of when you want to go to bed.
Noted. Time to rearrange my schedule. Okay, let's go back to insomnia for a bit. You mentioned doing something boring when you can't sleep. Can you give some specific examples? Because what I consider boring might be totally different from what someone else finds boring.
You're right. It's definitely subjective. But the main idea is to pick an activity that is both relaxing and kind of mentally unstimulating. Things like reading a book, listening to calming music, or even folding laundry can be surprisingly effective.
Folding laundry. That sounds more like a chore than a sleep aid.
I know, not the most exciting thing, but the point is that it doesn't require a lot of brain power. And it can help to sort of quiet your mind.
Okay, I'm starting to see the logic here. But what if those simple techniques don't work? Is there anything else people can try for, like chronic insomnia?
There's a type of behavioral therapy called sleep restriction that has shown some really promising results for chronic insomnia.
Sleep restriction. That sounds a bit intense.
I know the name sounds a little intimidating, but it basically involves limiting the amount of time you spend in bed to match the amount of time you're actually sleeping. It might sound counterintuitive, but it can be really effective.
So it's like retraining your body to sleep more efficiently.
Exactly. It helps strengthen the association between your bed and sleep, which can help break that cycle of insomnia.
That's fascinating. It really seems like there's a whole science behind kind of battling insomnia.
Absolutely. And there are professionals who specialize in helping people overcome sleep challenges. If you're dealing with chronic insomnia, it's definitely worth reaching out to a sleep specialist.
Great advice. Sometimes we all need a little extra support to get those z's.
Yeah.
Before we move on, I have to ask about something that's very important to me. Naps. We talked about the, ideal nap length. But what about the best time of day to take a nap?
That actually ties back to chronotypes, that natural sleep-wake cycle we talked about earlier. If you're a morning person, the ideal nap window is usually around 1:00 or 1:30 p.m. But if you're more of a night owl, you might find it easier to nap a bit later in the afternoon, maybe around 2:30 or 3 p.m.
So it's all about syncing your nap with those natural dips in your energy throughout the day.
Exactly. Pay attention to your body's cues. If you're feeling that afternoon slump, a short nap might be just what you need to recharge.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I feel like I'm becoming a sleep detective, uncovering all these little clues about my own sleep patterns. I bet there's some, like, common myths or misconceptions about sleep that you hear all the time.
Oh, absolutely. One of the biggest ones is that you can catch up on sleep on the weekends.
Oh, yeah. I've definitely fallen into that trap before. Like, there's a sleep bank where I can just deposit all my missed hours on Saturday morning.
Unfortunately, it doesn't quite work that way. While sleeping in on the weekends can help you, reduce some of that sleep debt, it can't fully compensate for, like, chronic sleep deprivation.
So consistency is still king, even when we're trying to make up for lost sleep.
Exactly. And another myth I hear a lot is that everyone needs 8 hours of sleep.
Wait, isn't that what we've been saying this whole time?
Well, 8 hours is a good starting point, but the reality is that individual sleep needs can vary. Some people naturally need a little more sleep, and some need a little less.
So how do you know how much sleep you personally need?
The best way is to pay attention to how you feel when you wake up. If you consistently feel refreshed and energized after 7 hours, then that's probably a good sign that you're getting enough sleep. But if you find yourself hitting the snooze button over and over again or feeling sluggish throughout the day, then you might need to adjust your sleep schedule.
It's like finding that Goldilocks zone of sleep. Not too much, not too little, but just right.
I like that analogy.
Well, my brain is officially overflowing with sleep knowledge. What a fascinating conversation. I might need to listen to this episode again later to let it all sink in.
It's a lot to absorb, but remember, even making small changes to your sleep habits can make a big difference in your overall health and well-being.
That's so true. And speaking of well-being, I'm starting to feel a little sleepy after all this talk about sleep.
Maybe it's time for a power nap.
Don't tempt me. But in all seriousness, I think we've covered so much ground today. Any final words of wisdom for our listeners before we wrap up this part?
Remember, prioritizing sleep is an act of self-care, not selfishness. When you invest in good sleep habits, you're investing in your health, your happiness, and your overall quality of life.
Beautifully said. Well, folks, we'll be back with part 3 to finish up our sleep exploration. Until then, sweet dreams.
Welcome back, sleep enthusiasts. Can you believe we're already on, the final part of our sleep journey?
I know, right?
I feel like I've learned so much, and I'm excited to, put all this newfound knowledge into practice.
Me too.
We've talked about so many things, from chronotypes to caffeine to the power of naps. But before we wrap up completely, I think we need to spend some time talking about the sleep environment itself. I mean, it makes sense that, where we sleep would play a big role in how well we sleep, right? You are so right. The environment where you sleep can make a world of difference in terms of sleep quality. It's all about setting the stage for those restful nights.
Okay, I love that. Setting the stage. So what are some of the key things to consider when we're, creating that perfect sleep sanctuary?
Well, first and foremost, darkness is absolutely essential. Your body's natural sleep hormone, melatonin, is produced in response to darkness. But exposure to light, especially the blue light from our phones and other electronic devices, can actually suppress melatonin production.
Right, we talked about that earlier. No more late night scrolling. But what about light from other sources, like street lights or even a full moon?
Any kind of light can be disruptive to sleep. You can try using blackout curtains or an eye mask to block out any unwanted light.
Darkness. Check. What else should we be thinking about?
Noise is another big one. Whether it's traffic, a snoring partner, or even just the hum of your refrigerator, all those unwanted sounds can make it hard to fall asleep and stay asleep.
I live in a city, so noise is definitely a constant battle for me. Any tips for dealing with that?
Earplugs can be a lifesaver. You could also try a white noise machine, or even just a fan, to create some soothing ambient sound that can help kind of mask those disruptive noises.
White noise, huh? Is that really effective? I always thought it would be distracting.
It can be incredibly helpful. That consistent sound of white noise actually helps drown out those other random sounds that might, startle you awake during the night.
Okay, that makes sense. It's like creating a little sound cocoon for your sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got darkness and quiet. What else should we add to our sleep sanctuary checklist?
Don't underestimate the power of bedding. Choosing, breathable, comfortable fabrics that help regulate your body temperature can make a big difference.
So ditching those heavy blankets, even in the winter.
Exactly. You don't want anything too heavy that's going to trap heat and make you feel uncomfortable. Look for lightweight blankets or duvets that will keep you warm without feeling stifling.
Lightweight and breathable. Got it. What about mattress firmness? I feel like that's something people talk about a lot. Does that really matter?
Mattress preference is definitely a personal thing, but generally speaking, you want a mattress that provides good support for your spine while also allowing your shoulders and hips to kind of sink in slightly. You don't want to feel like you're sleeping on a board, but you also don't want to feel like you're sinking into quicksand.
The Goldilocks principle strikes again.
Right.
Not too hard, not too soft, just right.
Exactly. And remember, your mattress is an investment in your sleep.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to really take your time and try out different options until you find the perfect one for you.
Great advice. I'm making notes. Darkness, quiet, breathable bedding, and the right mattress. Anything else we should be considering?
One last but important tip. Think about the overall vibe of your bedroom. You want it to feel relaxing and inviting.
So are you saying I need to redecorate?
It doesn't have to be anything drastic. Even small touches like a calming color palette, some soft lighting, and maybe decluttering your nightstand can go a long way in creating a more peaceful and sleep-friendly environment.
I love that idea. Turning my bedroom into a sleep oasis. Who needs a fancy vacation when you can create a sleep haven right at home?
Right. It's all about prioritizing sleep and creating an environment that supports your sleep goals.
Wow. This has been an amazing, deep dive into the world of sleep. I feel like we've covered so much valuable information.
I agree. And remember, even implementing just a few of these tips can make a big difference in how well you sleep and, how you feel overall.
Absolutely. And on that note, I think it's time for us to say goodnight and catch some zoos ourselves.
Sweet dreams, everyone.
And to all of you listening, thank you for joining us on this sleep adventure. We hope you've enjoyed it and learned something new about the power of sleep. Until next time, may your nights be filled with sweet dreams and restful slumber.